Okay. I really, really wanted this movie to be good. I went in hoping it would be good. I was sad. And so this is not a great setup. I need a new camera if I'm going to keep doing this, if it turns out to be worth doing. But you gotta try and start somewhere. I didn't like Star Wars. Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9. I could barely get through it. It's been a couple hours, okay? So it's not exactly fresh. But now that I've had time to think about it, okay, so I'm going to just run through the plot and try to get through it as best as I possibly can from what I remember. It's been about, what time is it? It's 3:45 in the morning. Why am I still awake? But it's been about, let's say about 3 hours. That's 3. That's German 3. It's American 3. Different movie. So it's been about 3 hours. So, let's see. Movie starts. Opening crawl. Star Wars. Long time ago, galaxy far, far away. We've seen it a bunch of times before. Emperor Palpatine has just come back. He's just here now. It's a certain amount of time has passed since Last Jedi. Not sure how long. A couple of months to a year. I don't think more than a year, judging by some of the other things and how they feel in the movie, but at least a couple of months since the end of Last Jedi. Palpatine has just returned, and he is sending out a message all across the galaxy. Just, hey, I'm back. Probably up to no good. Kylo Ren, rational and well thought out fellow that he is, starts rampaging across the galaxy, and we open up with him. Oh, I guess I should mention this is gonna just be spoilers left, right, and center, so I don't watch it. If you haven't seen the movie, just go stop now. Kylo Ren is murdering in my head, I remember them being kind of like fuzzy mushroom people. Anyway, he kills a bunch of them to get a big glowing green triangle, kind of Sith map. I think they call it a wayfinder. And he kills the fuzzy things, takes the thing, finds the secret planet that the Emperor is on, and this is maybe 5 minutes into the movie, maybe less, and I'm already having concerns, because one of my big fears going into this movie was that they were going to take everything I liked about The Last Jedi and just hit the undo button. Opening scene, they do basically just that. Opening scene, things I like and how they messed them up. I liked that when Snoke died, he was just some monster. Didn't really matter. He was a clone. Palpatine has a whole cloning tank full of Snokes that he is ready to go. Palpatine created Snoke from the ground up, and the entire First Order, while we're at it. Palpatine's been dead since Return of the Jedi, and I think we have all, just as a culture, come to agree that there was an evil, secret, bigger villain behind it the whole time, and that the guy that we thought was really dead isn't really dead, and he's back for revenge. I thought both of those were bad storytelling practice, but when you combine them... So, Kylo Ren. Snoke. Oh, Rey's parentage. I thought it was great that her parents were just a couple of drunks. They bring that up. But they start to hint at that in the very first scene, and so they don't even give me 5 minutes to think that that's going to stay safe. So Palpatine, who, I remind you, has been in charge of the First Order from behind the scenes the whole time, been controlling Kylo Ren the whole time, he's been the voice in your head the whole time. Last Jedi Snoke implied that he was the one who built the bridge between Kylo and Rey. Since Palpatine created Snoke, then Palpatine would be the one. So everything's just been the Emperor. It's just been Palpatine working in secret behind the scenes. I guess I should get some nice things out of the way. Ian McDiarmid, yeah, he's a good actor. And when he does that Emperor voice for the first time, it's scary. I like the visual design for the Emperor. At first you can't see his mouth moving. He's all in shadows, and he's kind of suspended. Right, so GLaDOS from Portal, or this dead flesh that is still being kept alive through, the dark side and anger, and I thought that would be really interesting. No, he's just an old guy, and they got his makeup done real bad. He tells Kylo Ren that if Kylo can kill Rey, then the Emperor will give Kylo everything. He's got this whole fleet of ships. They're Star Destroyers. He just built fucking Super Star Destroyers. No, everybody had Super Star Destroyers. Super duper Star Destroyers. And they all have a Death Star gun. He calls it the Final Order. They built a Death Star. They built a bigger Death Star. They built a multi-Death Star, and now they built a whole fleet of little Death Stars. If it doesn't work once... So then what? We cut to Rey. Rey's doing her training. Oh, Poe and Finn are off getting some information from some spy they have within the First Order. They come home to see Rey. Oh, another nice thing. There was a cool chase sequence. Poe and Finn are in the Millennium Falcon. They're being chased by some TIE fighters. Super fancy TIE fighters that have hyperdrive now. And they do this thing where they go into hyperspace and then come out really quick and they'll be in one planet, and then they'll go into hyperspace and come out really quick and they'll be in a different planet. And it's cool to see the scenery change, rapid fire like that. That's kind of neat. And they do acknowledge that the First Order can now track him through hyperspace, that's a technology they've developed. If you liked anything else about The Last Jedi, they're going to butcher it, so take what you can get. But Poe and Finn come back, and they have this information they've gotten from their spy, and that basically tells them what we saw in the first scene, and they have to go find a way to stop this, which leads them to Burning Man in space. C-3PO goes with them for some reason. They set it up like it's the beginning of the third act of a different story. A lot of everybody coming together, hugging and embracing, and this might be the last time we ever see each other, as if they're going into the final battle of a movie that we just joined. If you were a few years from now to stumble across this on TV and turn the station on my TV's over there and the camera can't see it, so this means nothing. You would not be amiss in thinking that you had caught the very end of the movie. Especially C-3PO, he has a lot of, farewells, heartfelt thoughts to share. They go to Burning Man in space. There they find a ship and a remnant of a bounty hunter. The books. They've got books. They've got Luke's journal. If you ever played the Uncharted series, yeah, they have that, but from Luke. Tuck that away in the back of your head, because it's going to be real fun in about 40 minutes. They bump into Lando. Somebody shows up in a helmet with a voice modulator on. They didn't bother to voice modulate Lando that well, right? Billy D. Williams, you can tell what their voice sounds like. So, it's Lando. The movie has a lot of this, where it'll set up a surprise, not do it very well, and then just immediately reveal, like, why are we at Burning Man? Because they need to find how to find the Emperor. They get chased, and they fall into some quicksand, and that takes them to some underground caverns. They find a dagger. Also, there is a snake. A space snake, a big worm snake monster. It's got a wound, and Rey goes over, puts her hand on it. There, that's a hand. And heals it. Lay on hands. Jedi can do that now. Apparently it's in the show. I haven't caught up that far on The Mandalorian. So she heals the snake. And that's, again, just tuck that away. They find this dagger. And on this dagger is like ancient Sith writing. And C-3PO looks at it for about 2 seconds, because languages is what he does. I know what all of this means. And they go, great. What's it say? And he goes, I cannot tell you. Cannot translate the forbidden text. It's the location of the second. There's 2 magical green Sith Wayfinder maps, and this points us to where the second one is. There's lots of different ways to communicate. They don't lampshade it. They don't make an attempt to find a different way. Spoiler alert, it ends up pointing them toward Endor, and 3PO knows this. Maybe give him a map for him to point at, or maybe 3PO could, hey, remember that time us and all them little teddy bear creatures, we, fought off guerrilla warfare in the jungle? Remember that? I bring that up for no particular reason. But sure, fine, the rules of the world. The only way they can get this information out of 3PO's head is they have to find a black market droid dealer. So they find the shuttle that the bounty hunter that Luke was after. They find his ship. They can't get back to the Millennium Falcon because it's the first place the bad guys will look. But it's fine. It'll come back. Don't worry. Don't you worry. In fact, don't worry about anything. You have nothing to worry about. If you are concerned or if you feel a sense of tension, just let it go. It's not important. As we're about to demonstrate, because they get on the ship, Kylo Ren finds them. Oh, Christ. This movie's all over the place. So back it up. They first get to Space Burning Man on whatever planet they're on. And Kylo Ren does his little, I can talk to you through the Force thing that they did through Last Jedi, right? Except now, he can reach out, pull physical objects through. You can actually reach through this connection in time and space and pull a physical object back to me. Eggs, milk, bread, And so he reaches out, he grabs some necklace and uses that to figure out where they are. I don't remember the reasoning, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. It's just a way for them to know where Rey and Finn and Poe are. Oh, and Chewie's with them this whole time, too. So Chewie gets kidnapped by stormtroopers, and they put him on a shuttle, a transport, and he's got the dagger. Oh no, we need the dagger in order to get the information. We also need to save Chewie because Chewie's our friend, so we need to get that transport down here. Rey tries to force pull the transport down to them. Kylo Ren shows up. Oh Christ, he's got the Knights of Ren. The Knights of Ren are nothing. They are nothing. Remember 3 movies ago? Can't even get through a plot summary without going, oh right, all of this little nonsense that they've spent time on. When you first see Snow, Kylo, Lord of the Knights of Ren. They're just 6 fucks in black armor. There's even a scene where one of the stormtroopers gets really, perturbed as they're walking onto the ship. He's like, the Knights of Ren, ghouls. But they're just 6 other Darth Vader cosplayers that are kind of around, and they don't do anything. There's a fight with them later on, and it lasts about 30 seconds. That's it. I hate this chair. There we go. Kylo Ren shows up, and he and Rey start playing tug of war with the transport ship. And Rey, big moment, force lightning. Rey shoots force lightning out of her hand. Again, I'm having you tuck a bunch of things into the back of your head. It's not going to be good. They will pay off, but not in a good way. Blows it up. Just annihilates it. And Chewie's on this ship. And so there's a scene when she goes over to the cargo transport, the bounty hunter's old ship where Finn and Poe are, and she tells them there's this really heart-wrenching moment, I killed Chewie. But then it intercuts to the big command Star Destroyer, and there's Chewie. But it keeps cutting between, Chewie's dead, and then Chewie being, processed. We had this big emotional beat, and the music was, swelling to support it because, oh no, Chewie's dead. Nerds who read the books. The Disney movies have had this annoying habit. When they first did The Force Awakens, they talked about how all of the extended books, the extended universe is going to be non-canon now, and they wiped it clean, and that's fine. I completely understand wanting to have just a clean slate to work from. They've been cherry-picking little things that they like from the books and changing them just enough to claim ownership. The Last Jedi at the very beginning, and I love The Last Jedi, don't get me wrong. And if you haven't seen Knives Out, go see Knives Out. It's brilliant. This isn't about that movie. But the bombers at the beginning of The Last Jedi, they're not B-Wings, but they look like B-Wings, and they're close enough to B-Wings, and they are not B-Wings, and so that way Disney can claim the Beta Wing Bethany baseball, I don't know what they're called. Han has a son that turns evil. Oh, really? Where'd you get that idea? Playing off of this moment of Chewie dying, once again, it's just why would you think... Okay, so Chewie's alive, and the audience knows Chewie's alive, but the movie's treating you like you don't. But then they find out, then they just get onto that ship because... I don't even remember why they go on the damn ship. It's only been 3 hours. This movie is so cluttered. Everything I'm on is a huge plot cul-de-sac, by the way, so don't get invested in any of this. It doesn't matter that I can't remember it. Rey finds Kylo Ren's room, and they have a little fight. Kylo Ren's still down on the planet. So they're fighting through the long-range connection, and they're fighting like the lightsabers are clashing. This might even happen on a different planet. That's how... if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Feel free to argue and correct me in the comments. It's fine. They have a fight, and the Darth Vader helmet is on a plinth. Oh, the dagger. The dagger and Chewie's bandolier was just laid out on a table. Someone set it up like it was a museum piece, and that's what she's looking for. But then she finds the burnt out Darth Vader helmet, remember from Force Awakens, that falls to the ground into Kylo Ren's field of view from, way off wherever he is, and he goes, oh, there you are. And they get away somehow. I remember there's a scene in the shuttle where they do a long... So they go to this one planet where Poe knows a guy, and he runs into an old flame, someone who he used to work for running Spice, and it's at this point where, earlier in the movie, there was a sandworm, And the one I told you about wasn't even the first sandworm. There was another one in that like hyperspeed skipping sequence, and they're talking about running spice, but like they never contextualize like what spice means in this world. So I am just going to have to assume they're talking about melange or something close enough to that the movie doesn't feel the need to go beyond the reference. So they meet this woman. I think it's Carrie Russell. I'm not sure. She never takes her helmet off, and her voice is kind of muffled by the helmet. She's always wearing this big helmet. At one point, you see her eyes, but that's all I got. I guess IMDb would know. Oh, I'd have to remember the character's name. There are so many characters in this movie whose names are just not really memorable, but we'll try. It is Carrie Russell. Look at that. Oh, God. Intercut with all of this, Leia is running the Resistance base, and she has a few scenes at the beginning. She's part of the big, like, tearful goodbye stuff. And Dominic Monaghan, Mary from Lord of the Rings, Charlie from Lost, he's just one of the rebels, but he's never really given a name. It feels like there was a subplot revolving around him that just got cut, but they kept him in there because they needed him to do the exposition and they didn't want to do reshoots, although there are some that it's like, holy crap, did they do reshoots. The seams are just there for all to see. And Greg Grunberg is in it. He does a similar thing where he's got a couple of scenes where, like, yep, he's right there, and he's saying stuff that, you know, is furthering what's going on in the scene. His name is Greg Grunberg. I think he might have been in The Force Awakens, though. I think this is, like, a recurring little cameo. And part of it is, like, are they just Star Wars nerds who wanted their spot? Because, like, I absolutely would believe that. I've seen, you know, most of The Mandalorian at this point, and, like, they've had a ton of that. Brian Posehn, very first episode. Anyway, oh, also Hux, The Last Jedi. Hux looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Like he's been up all night scheming, like, I'll show Kylo Ren, I'll be Daddy's new favorite. And they took all that away. He just looks like Donald Gleason. Like, just perfectly regular Donald Gleason. Oh my God, the board, okay. Way back at some point. Doesn't really matter when. This event needs to happen. Doesn't really matter when it happens. There's a boardroom scene where Supreme Leader Kylo Supreme... I can say words. There's a boardroom scene where Supreme Leader Kylo Ren is addressing all of the First Order officers, saying, hey, Palpatine's here, and he's going to give us unrestricted, unqualified power. And someone in the room goes, that sounds like a lie, and then he's going to betray us. And Kylo Ren and smacks him into a wall. It's one of the few moments I actually believe what Kylo Ren's doing. I like Adam Driver. Don't get me wrong. I love Adam Driver. He's just a whiny Darth Vader cosplayer, and I love it. And this is one of the few times in this movie he actually plays off a whiny Darth Vader cosplayer. So this is my compliment sprinkled in. Planet, back alley droids guy, Poe's old flame. She's ready to kill him, and then she and Rey fight, and then they respect each other, and that makes the old flame, Carrie Russell, forgive Poe for reasons. You gotta keep the movie going. She brings them to the black market droids guy. Another thing, it's a handful of compliments. This black market droids, I forget his name, Bebo Fleck. Sounds like a EDM band. Babu Frick. Closer than I thought. Babu Frick. He's about 8 inches tall. That's kind of cool. It's nice seeing something that isn't just like a standard or slightly taller or slightly shorter than standard humanoid alien in anything. 8 inches tall, completely CGI, of course. He's digging around in 3PO's head. 3PO tells them that this is going to wipe his memory. That's why all of this is important. That's why all of this build-up, getting the dagger and him knowing the Sith language and not being able to translate it, it all builds up to, like, we can do it, but it will wipe 3PO's memory, and he will not remember anybody. He will be functionally dead and reborn. And this is where that one shot from the trailer comes from, that big, long model and pan. I'm looking one last time at my friends. Because Anthony Daniels actually, really good at conveying emotion in this plastic tin can he's been stuck in since 1977. Powerful moment in isolation, and then in context, there are other ways to communicate. We could try to get this information some other way. And they ask him, oh, but R2-D2 can just back up your hard drive. What? No, that's barbaric. Why would he be able to do that? Also, his memory banks don't work, and they're no good. There's no possible way. They make a big point of that. And so they get the information out of him, and it wipes his hard drive, as promised. And it sends them to the moon of Endor. And I think there's some more interlude stuff, but I don't remember. It might have been some of the stuff I've already talked about, and I just mixed up the order. It doesn't really matter. The next big narrative beat is Endor. I remember it takes them a while to get there. So they get to Endor, and they see off in the distance the Death Star, the second one from Return of the Jedi, crashed. There's some cryptic line in C-3PO's translation. The blade will show the way. This blade knows. Rey takes the knife and looks at it, and there in the hilt is a little tab, and she pulls the tab into a semicircle and holds the semicircle up to the horizon, and just like Uncharted. They had the notebook, and now they've got like the weird cryptic puzzle that someone built from when the Death Star fell. The Death Star had not deteriorated at any point in this time, and our heroes just happened to land in the exact spot at the exact angle that holding this circle up lines up with the curvature of the inlaid circle of the Death Star's shell and points to the thing, the sweet spot, which just turns out to be the Emperor's throne room. They meet some former stormtroopers who have been reformed and living in harmony with nature. You can tell because they ride horses, space horses. Makes a big deal about how the water's not safe, which Rey completely ignores and just steals a boat and goes out on the water and gets to the Death Star. They follow her, also with no consequence, because they're in a hurry. You see, they don't have time to wait. Stakes don't exist. She goes into the throne room. She goes into a little antechamber off the throne room. Remember that shot in the trailer? That really cool, like, evil Rey with the switchblade, butterfly, knife, red double lightsaber thing? It's a hallucination. It is the equivalent of Luke going into the spooky forest. Spooky forest. To fight the Darth Vader mannequin. So, we're getting about to the end of Act 2 here. So far it's just been kind of annoying. Now it gets really bad. My thoughts going into this, right, about The Last Jedi. I didn't want Snoke's backstory. I got Snoke's backstory. I didn't want Kylo Ren to get his helmet back. I loved that scene where he smashes the helmet in like a tantrum in the elevator. I thought it was very indicative of his character. I thought it was a good symbolic moment. People seem to want Kylo Ren redeemed for some reason, and that was, in a bizarre way, a step toward that. I thought that was really nice. Of course, he's built the helmet back up and puts it together within the first 10 minutes of the movie. So this is the scene, also in the trailer, where you see him storming across what looked like a pier and all the waves and the rain in the background. It's the wreckage of the Death Star. And he and Rey are face-to-face in the real world, not in this. We can now reach through space and time, and they have a fight. A lot of bad ideas, a lot of bad decisions happen really, really fast. And the very first one happens before the fight. They have their "I'll convert you to my side," "No, I'll convert you to my side," back and forth again. And then Rey finds out who her parents are. They're not drunks. They're not nobodies. Something along the lines of they had to turn themselves into nobodies to protect you, whatever the hell that means. I was afraid it was going to be a Kenobi. I was wrong. I never thought it would be. She is Emperor Palpatine's granddaughter. Her dad is Emperor Palpatine's son. Palpatine fucked. Or probably just made a clone. Like he's got all those clone tanks because he's been making Snoke clones. I don't know which is worse. Obviously I know which is worse. Between the two, give me the damn clone, please. So that's why she shot Force Lightning out earlier. She's never going to do it again in the entire movie. She's not going to shoot Force Lightning again. Just that one time to make you think she killed Chewie, but she really didn't. That's bad decision number one. Bad decision number two is arguably worse. Ren and Rey are fighting on Endor Moon. Leia reaches out with her feelings and finds her son, connects to him. Kylo is about to deliver the final blow thing. He hears his mother's voice. Leia, looking off in the distance, because it's probably like old footage, because they didn't actually probably have time to shoot this scene before Carrie Fisher passed away. We miss you, Space Mom. And they actually very clearly have Maz, Lupita Nyong'o's character, deliver a lot of dialogue that was very obviously meant to be from Leia at one point or another, particularly in this scene, and one more time toward the end of the movie, which is egregious. Anyway, shot order. Leia reaches out to connect to her son. You see a shot of Kylo Ren's face as he hesitates from killing Rey. Rey stabs Kylo Ren through the chest, cuts back to Resistance base, and you see Leia lay down on her deathbed and die. Now, the visual language, what the frame is telling you through this sequence and through the editing, is that Rey killed Leia. That by stabbing Ben, Rey is responsible for Leia's death. That's stupid. That's stupid and bad and dumb. And then she can't take the fact that she's a Palpatine, so she steals Kylo Ren's TIE fighter special whatever and flies away. Oh, she heals him. She touches his chest wound and gives him the Jedi healing magic before she goes. He stands up and he has a short conversation with Harrison Ford, the memory of his father that he murdered, who forgives him. It is at this point in the movie that Kylo Ren is now redeemed. He's done nothing either to work toward this or to deserve it the entire movie. In fact, he's done nothing but spout the same "I'm going to convert you to the dark side" lines over and over and over again for about the last hour and a half. And then he just gets his redemption moment from his dead dad that he killed after being proxy to his mom. Possibly the fact that Leia was his direct bloodline link to Darth Vader, and now that's severed. That's the metaphor. Either way, it's not great, and it feels really uncomfortable considering it's Carrie Fisher. To my mind, it's a little disrespectful to her memory. So Rey goes back to the island where she found Luke, and she's throwing a bonfire made out of TIE fighter, and she's burning everything. She burns the... Oh crap, I didn't even get to mention... Yeah, she finds the Sith map. The first thing Kylo Ren does when he shows up is breaks it. All of this was just a long plot cul-de-sac. She needs Kylo Ren to get to Palpatine, wipe out C-3PO's memories, and to kill Leia. That's what the first hour and a half of the movie is for. Still right where they started. That's not quite true. They're about to find the other one because Rey's got the TIE fighter, Kylo Ren's, and she just finds the second one in the ship as she's burning it. It's just, that's where it is. And now she has the thing she needs. So it's fine. It's fine. We didn't need to do all that. It's fine. But we did. She's burning everything. She goes to throw her lightsaber into the fire, and a hand comes out and grabs the lightsaber. And it's Luke. Luke's Force Ghost comes out and grabs the lightsaber and hands it back to her. Gives her a little pep talk about how just because you're a Palpatine doesn't mean you're evil. And she goes, yep, okay, all temptation averted. I'm a good guy, for real. And he goes, great, here, have Leia's lightsaber. Because she trained as a Jedi, and there's a brief flashback sequence. It's less than a minute, but here, she was in training and saw that it would end badly for her son, so she stopped. But here's the lightsaber that she was waiting for someone like you to come take it up. So now she's got 2 lightsabers. Let's talk about lightsabers for a second. So the reason I was so mad about the butterfly knife thing is whenever Star Wars puts out a new whenever Star Wars puts out a new lightsaber design, it's always interesting. Just because, like, we've had magic sword made out of light. But I remember when I was a kid and Darth Maul's staff came out, just by virtue of it being 2 of them at once, it was just the coolest thing ever. And then, like, Kylo Ren's with the weird crossbar and the hilt made out of little tiny lightsabers. Like, yeah, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Oh, after he talked to Han Solo, he threw that in the ocean. It's gone. It doesn't make any sense to me, because if your hand slips, you're going to slice your fucking hand up on it. But whatever, it was different. And that made it just, by default, something worth looking at or seeing what it could do. So when I saw that big, chunky, flippy, open thing, I was like, that'll be so cool. They can do stuff with it. Maybe it separates and they can turn it into 2. No. You see it flip open. I think she waves it up once. That's it. All takes less than 10 seconds. So Rey's got 2 lightsabers. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, at least we're going to get some dual-wielding lightsaber stuff later on in the movie. Technically a little bit, but really not. Luke then lifts his X-Wing out of the water and gives that to her as well. I thought it was a little annoying when Yoda made the lightning bolt hit the tree in the last one. Like, if they're dead, but they can still affect the physical world in this sort of manner, then what's the point of being... This is Star Wars now, where death means nothing and stakes are non-existent. Luke can just do all these things. There's no real rhyme or reason, and if someone gets killed or, like, does a heroic sacrifice, who cares? Speaking of which, all the rest of our heroes have gotten back to the base just in time to find out Leia's dead, and here's one of the spots where, like, I can tell you the seams of the editing are just really, really visible. They're in the middle of mourning Leia and planning their next moves. In the middle of all of this, there's a shot where 3PO and R2-D2 are alone, isolated in one corner of the room. 3PO introduces himself for the first time. R2 physically stumbles back and just immediately plugs something into 3PO's head and boop, restores his memory to just before they left the mission at the beginning of the movie. So that thing that they said they couldn't do, R2-D2 can't do it, and they absolutely positively can't do it, they just did it. And they did it in a really awkward, obvious side cut that was part of a reshoot, I'm guessing. It's never brought up. No one ever engages with 3PO to identify that they're aware he's brought his memory back. He never goes out of his way to tell everyone, hey, here I am, I'm back. He makes like one joke about not being like up to speed on what's happening. And that's about it. They pick up Rey's signal, and she's using the magic map to get to the secret planets where Emperor is with all of his Death Star, Super Duper Star Destroyer, planet zappers. They blow up the planet where they met the black market droid guy, Kerry Russell, Poe's old flame was there. That planet gets destroyed as a way of trying to escalate. Except Kerry Russell's character is just alive. Later on in the movie, we're going to see her again. Don't worry about it. It's fine. No tension, no danger, no one's in trouble. Who's to say who else survived, or if anyone was on the planet at all? People were probably on the planet. Let's be realistic. But the only real character that anyone's got any kind of emotional involvement with just happened to survive the planet exploding. I guess the little 8-inch droid Smith might be dead. That's maybe a little sad. Oh, there's another droid they found. He's literally a wheel and a megaphone, and I think at one point they call him Dio, and he's got PTSD. Seriously, the droid has PTSD, but they mention it once, and then they just completely ignore it. Never comes up again. Oh, and there's a slug monster. There's a lot of stuff that never comes up again that's like, that'll make a great action figure. I was actually talking to my partner about this, and she thought when she saw the red lines on Kylo Ren's mask, the first thing she thought was, now with realistic light-up action. So they follow Ren's ship. They trace it to where the Emperor is, and they launch their final assault. They don't have any backup. They leave that up to Lando. Lando takes the Millennium Falcon and goes out to send a signal to all of their allies in the Outer Rim. Sound familiar? It's exactly what they did at the end of the last movie, and nobody answered. It was kind of a downer moment. And in this movie, they mention that. They reference it. They bring it up a couple of times. I'm paraphrasing here, but they do say more than once, the First Order wants you to feel hopeless because they want you to feel like you're alone, or something along those lines. They repeat it. So, did the First Order block the signal? Why are we doing the same exact thing we did last time, except this time it works and last time it didn't? What changed? And the answer is, we're not in The Last Jedi and you're dumb for liking that movie. That's what it feels like. So Lando's going to go do that, and they've got some plan to get ground assault teams to knock out some control towers that are sending a signal to the Super Duper Star Destroyers. Oh, there's a whole subplot. Hux turned out to be the spy, and they bring it up, and they resolve it, and it's gone. Hux says, I'm the spy, and helps them out of a bind, and then he gets shot, and he's dead. He's just dead. Fucking Richard E. Grant kills him, because Richard E. Grant is like the new super duper jerk. Also, they just happen to know that Kylo Ren's been turned. They just somehow know, even though this whole thing happened like on a planet way over here with no one else around. They just know. Big fight happens with all the ships, and Rey goes down to the planet to confront the Emperor, and Kylo Ren goes down to the planet after her, and the Knights of Ren, first time we've seen them in like 2 hours, and the first time in the movie they will do anything. They're ready to throw down with Kylo, their old boss. They have a little bit of a fight. Meanwhile, Ren is confronting Palpatine, her grandpa. He tells her some stuff. I'm going to try to make sense of this. So, Palpatine, still alive. They even reference at the beginning of the movie that the dark side leads to powers some would consider unnatural. Part of the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, the Sith Master that sought to bring the dead back to life and cheat death, is framed as violating the natural order and an evil act, and is literally the thing that tempted Anakin Skywalker into becoming Darth Vader. Just keep that in the back of your head. So the implication then is that Palpatine, in some manner, between this and the cloning, doesn't really, the nuts and bolts are not important, but between this and all the cloning tanks and things, has found a way to survive his fall in Return of the Jedi, and been all these years okay. He is the vessel for all of the Sith that have come before him and have ever been. He is the biblical legion of Sith. Rey is his inheritor, who will now strike him down in anger, thus inviting all of the Sith into her, and she will become the new Empress and ascend to the throne and rule the Sith. Palpatine tells her all of this, just as I just told you. Why? Arrogance, obviously. Hubris. Personally, just getting tired of movies where the villain explains the plan and gives the hero all of the information they need to succeed. Because the writing couldn't find a more elegant way to make that happen. Same problem in Wonder Woman. Spoilers for Wonder Woman. There is a whole scene where the villain explains to Diana that she is the God Killer, not the sword, her. And she did not know this information until he told her. Anyway, this is all we cut with the Knights of Ren getting a jump on Kylo and having him at their mercy. Rey taking her lightsaber, putting it behind her back. Kylo has pulled it through the magical time and space tunnel that they have between them. Dispatches all of the Knights of Ren in a minute. And then, sure, don't get me wrong, he was their boss. Makes sense. I've been waiting 3 movies to find out who these people are, and this is what you get. We're still in the same position we were in a minute ago. If one of them kills Palpatine, they get possessed by all the Sith ghosts. This is where it really starts to feel personal about the Last Jedi thing, because the one bit in Last Jedi I really hate and couldn't stand is Snoke's dumb turning on his lightsaber and aiming it at his true enemy. Yes, we get it, movie, we know what's about to happen. And Palpatine does the same thing here for minutes at a time, and he starts spinning a new canon in his head about like the dyad of the Force and how the two shall come to restore the one, and he's like sucking their life force into him and regenerating. It sounds like he's just making this up off the top of his head, like, I need to win somehow. And he knocks Kylo away. By the way, Phasma got done dirty in the second one, and she fell into a pit of fire, and this whole time I'm sitting here going like, death means nothing, consequences are pointless, so maybe Phasma will come back and at least I'll get something I want. She never does. She's dead. I really hate how they did Phasma. Look, Gwendolyn Christie is really good at what she does. Let her do what she does, damn it. Rey and the Emperor are in the room together. At some point, Lando has showed up with all of the ships from all of the different corners of the galaxy, all of their allies in the Outer Rim. The ones who just ignored them the first time but are here now. One of the undercurring themes in these movies that have been flip-flopping is inherent destiny versus just the common people. Is the Skywalker Kenobi bloodline inherently divine, chosen by God or the Force? Or is it something that can be attained by, just anybody? The second movie, I think, pretty clearly leaned toward, like, no, bloodlines are stupid, we're past chosen one narratives at this point. But then they go out of their way to make everyone back into a chosen one narrative. Except now Lando shows up with all these people, and there's this very pointed line on one of the First Order ships of, like, they have a navy? And someone looks up at the general and goes, it's not a navy, they're just people. What's your message, movie? Which side of this are you on? Anyway, they're all there, and Palpatine's regenerated, and he shoots this giant lightning storm up into the sky, and he takes out like half the fleet all at once, and ships are just falling out of the sky. Meanwhile, Rey is on the floor, drifting in and out of consciousness, and gets a montage of voices from prominent Jedi characters throughout the films saying that they're with her. Okay, showdown time. Palpatine has all of the Sith embodied within him, and Rey has all of the Jedi embodied with her in both cases, all that ever were and all that ever have been. Literally, the bloodline feud of the Sith and the Jedi culminated in this room. This is the embodiment of the main conflict of the franchise. Arguably, the climax of everything that is Star Wars. This is the light side versus the dark side, boiled down into two people, and those two are squaring off. It takes about a minute. Palpatine shoots some Force lightning, which is no longer as strong as it was when it was tearing out the entire fleet. Rey blocks it with a lightsaber. They quip. She pulls out a second lightsaber. See what I mean when I said earlier, like, kind of dual wielding, but not really? Yeah, she pulls out a second lightsaber. The Force lightning all feedbacks, like what happened the last time Palpatine tried this shit, and it melts him. The end. She just killed Palpatine? I guess you could try to make an argument that he did it to himself, but, like, what happened to all the Sith ghosts? Like, they're not just metaphorical. You can see them. They're like in robes in the stands like it's the Colosseum. Movie's over now. Except we got a couple of things to tie up. So Kylo Ren crawls out of the pit, because of course he's not dead. He comes over to Rey, and remember earlier when we talked about Darth Plagueis and how bringing people back from the dead is just sort of the inciting incident for the entire core trilogy? Yeah, so Kylo Ren brings her back from the dead, just with the power of love and laying on of hands. And then she wakes up, and she calls him Ben, and they smile, and then they smooch, and then he dies. He lays back and evaporates. But here's the thing. As he evaporates, it cuts back to Leia's deathbed, and her body is still under the shroud. She evaporates along with him. Remember earlier we talked about the cinematic language and how the frame is telling the story that Rey killed Leia? Ben just freed her soul. So there's a big celebration, big party, and there's all sorts of people reuniting and hugging and kissing loved ones. The LBGT representation seems really tacked on and disingenuous. Also, remember earlier when I said they gave Maz like some stuff that was clearly meant to be for Leia to do? Maz gives Chewie a medal. Chewie finally gets his medal. Because we've been making jokes about this for 30 years, and now Chewie finally got his medal. So, epilogue. Rey, who has like a tearful reunion with Poe and Finn, and then just leaves them. They go their separate ways, which I'm not really into shipping myself, but if, you know, anything out of that triangle makes sense, like, yeah, Poe and Finn are going to pair off this way. That makes sense. Rey and BB-8 go to Tatooine, and they go to Owen and Beru's old moisture farm, where Rey takes Luke and Leia's lightsabers and binds them up, and very reverently, and buries them in the sand. And an old woman comes by with a space camel. There's a lot of weird space animals in this one. Goes, oh, I don't know you. I haven't seen anyone around here in ages. Who might you be, young lady? And she goes, oh, I'm Rey. She goes, Rey who? She looks over in the distance, right? There's Luke and Leia's Force ghosts. And a whole movie that's been back and forth on the idea of whether or not, you know, bloodlines are divine or the common people have the power. Rey looks over at Luke and Leia, looks back at the old woman and goes, Rey Skywalker. Credits. I really, really wanted that old lady to get the last line. Skywalker, I remember that fella. He caused a bit of a ruckus here a while ago. He was a bad egg, that kid. Credits, that's what I wanted. It didn't happen. A lot of what I wanted didn't happen. I'm sure I've forgotten. I've got a degree in words, and that's how I talk. I have not the time nor the energy right now to try to parse out all of that. That's my taxing experience at Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. Maybe I'll come back to this in 6 months, watch it again once it's on DVD, maybe have a different opinion, but right now I'm very sad about Star Wars. Happy holidays, everyone. Thanks for watching.